Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, COVID-19 Cybersecurity Threats Training. My name is Michael Shagru. I'm the president of PACE Technical. I'm joined today by Noman Ahmed, who is our director of technology here at PACE. Noman will be joining us a little bit later on for our Q&A session. For those who don't know us, PACE Technical is a managed IT service provider. We're managing the networks of around 60 GTA-based businesses. We've been providing our unique proactive service, managing both the IT networks and security for businesses for over 20 years now. But I have to say, these are strange times. I've never seen anything like this affecting our businesses and our lives. So look, we're all in this together, and we're trying to offer help and do whatever we can to try and help people out in this time. So this is one of the ways, by trying to give you some of our expertise to help people out there stay safe. So hoping that everybody gets something out of today's webinar. If you were with us a couple of weeks back for our Microsoft Teams training, welcome back. If you missed it and you're interested in Microsoft Teams training, we've made that recording available again for free to anybody on our website. So just go to pacetechnical.com and you'll find it under media. So today's webinar is going to be mainly focused on trying to educate any user on the current threats and how to stay safe. If you're a business owner or the person that's responsible for managing IT or managing the IT people, we got some good information as well for you and helping keep your business safe. So we're going to go over that a little bit later on in the webinar. So that said, let's get started. And here is our agenda. Just going to turn off my video so it doesn't get in the way. First off, having a quick look at the cybersecurity landscape. Then we're going to go over some specific current COVID threat examples, including phishing examples, Office 365 attacks, text, etc. Talking about why everybody is having these kind of issues, and then going and looking at how to protect yourself. And then we'll finish off with Q&A. So if you have any questions, please post them into the questions section. And once we get through the content, we're going to open it up for those questions and start looking and answering those, and I'll bring Noman on. I thought this concept here was pretty compelling. If hackers were public companies, we'd all be buying their stock right now. Like this time and all the hype around COVID-19 has created kind of a perfect storm for hackers right now. People are a little bit knocked off balance by this, on edge, you know, working in unusual places and things like that right now. So right now is definitely an opportune time for hackers. So why such a big deal now? Yeah. First off, people working in unfamiliar environments, like so many people have been sent home to work, maybe not even working on their standard work machine, maybe having to use a home machine, having to try and connect back into the office, or get access to their business assets and whatnot. Also, just working from home with whatever it might be, kids in the house, even pets in the house, anything like that can also be disruptive. A dramatic increase in the remote access just in general. So having remote access to systems, adding in just that one other potential, security risk, and opening up remote access for people. And if it's not secured properly, that can be a great opportunity for hackers. Fear and uncertainty can drive irrational behavior, doing things or clicking on things or wanting access to things that you may have otherwise not have worried about before. COVID-19 is a big topic. Everybody's interested in it. Everybody's starving and looking for more information. Users are more on their own now, especially if they're, working from home. So you can't just peek over the cubicle and say, hey, have you ever seen this? Or, hey, did you send me this mail? Or whatever the case is. And then cyber criminals are really organized and well-funded, and that's been increasing year over year. It's not just individuals now, it's structured businesses. So, and just as an example, I did a webinar a few years back, and in my research, I came across the profile of a business that was from the Ukraine, had approximately 200 employees, and in many ways was, very similar to our businesses. Like, it had holidays, employees got sick days, vacation days, they had birthday parties, they held holiday parties, people got bonuses, they even had medical and dental benefits. But there was only one big difference, that the whole business was a cybercrime and manipulating people out of their money as well. And you probably heard in the news, there's a lot of organizations that are potentially government funded and state sponsored as well, which is also a very, very scary thought. Thought this graphic was kind of compelling. I've got this from IBM. The industry has really changed. It's no longer just a bunch of individuals. These are well-organized groups who have access to great tools, and they're also sharing expertise with each other. 80% of attacks are carried out by organized organizations and organized crime. I think this bottom graph is also really compelling as to how lucrative cybercrime is against, some of the other alternative. If you go into a life of crime, what would you choose? And you can see at 445 billion annual cost of cybercrime, that's pretty huge. And look, these people probably don't even have to leave their basement. Okay, wait a minute. That was probably insensitive of me. I'm stereotyping hackers as lonely, secluded people who hang out in their basement. I probably should have said they don't even have to leave their mansions. Might have been more correct. So let's have a quick look and go through some cybercrime 101. So want to brush up maybe on some of our terms and information. Obviously, the first one here, malware, which just a term, stands for malicious software, comes in a few different forms. First off, viruses. I'm sure by now everybody has either heard or even seen firsthand, maybe had a virus on your computer at one time or another, or at a coworker or whatnot. Ransomware is probably one of the most popular forms of malware right now. Basically, ransomware is malware that infects one or more machines. Usually it encrypts the files in the system, basically locking them out from any access and kind of holding the user or the company ransom for a fee to get a decryption key, which basically gets the files back to normal so that you can access it again. Problem here is even paying the fee doesn't guarantee that the hacker is going to release a decryption key. In a lot of cases, they may, once you pay some money, may ask for more money. Or who knows what else they might do. Spyware is a little sneakier than the others. Usually hangs in the background, accessing and potentially stealing information. A lot of times it can go undetected. One of the telltale signs people usually notice, their machine starts slowing down because the spyware is transferring data. And then there's scareware. Scareware usually shows in the form of a pop-up window. I don't know if you've ever seen something like this, basically telling you have a virus and asking you to call a number or click on a link, which would then either get you to enter sensitive information or infect your system. Remember that Ukraine company that I was telling you about before? Their main scam was scareware. So basically it was a pop-up that came and told the user that their system was infected and gave them a number to call. And they had a room full of agents standing by just waiting for these calls. And the agent had you pay a fee over the phone to clean your system. They charged around $100 or something like that. But once you paid the fee, you had to give this person who was a hacker remote access to your system, which they then went in and installed their own malware. Basically, they were selling what they were calling antivirus, but it was actually also malware. And then they exploited you again later. Pretty awful. So obviously phishing is about the most common type of cybercrime going on right now and cyber threats. So phishing is basically disguised emails, texts, websites that are designed to trick an end user into giving up information or credentials or installing malicious software. Over 80% of reported cybercrime incidents were from phishing. So obviously this ranks the highest right now. Spear phishing is basically very targeted phishing attempts at one particular user or one organization. Typically what happens is people use phishing campaigns to get a user to give up their credentials. Then they're going to go ahead and log in to whether it's email or their system and kind of watch for a while, learn and understand the organization, the user, who the players are. They may do some outside research using LinkedIn or other ways to find out who individuals are in the organization. And then now that they have a compromised email account, they can now legitimately send email from that compromised email account to individual users, and it's going to look very authentic. This is where you've, I don't know if you've ever heard of the ones, it's emails that are basically sent to like the financial person in an organization. Usually it's sent from like a CEO or a higher up that says, oh, by the way, I need you to wire money to this bank account or this address or whatnot. And it looks very authentic. But what I will say to anybody that's in a financial position or anybody in an organization in general, never send or transfer money or do any financial transactions based on directions that were given to you just in an email. You have to implement a process of calling that person or another method of verifying whatever that transaction is or that request is. So some of the other main cyber threats, hacking, which is basically finding vulnerabilities in software, hardware, security, and then exploiting those vulnerabilities. So this is why it's really important to make sure that software is updated, especially Windows, especially the operating system. You've heard of like Windows patches and security updates and things like that. Well, basically somebody has discovered a loophole or a flaw in the system, and those patches and security updates are basically closing up those holes. So that's why it's very important to make sure things are always up to date. Second one, distributed denial of service attacks. This is basically where you're overwhelming a network with activity and bringing the services to a halt. So for instance, a website where normally a website might be able to handle, hundreds or thousands of people accessing a particular website. However, what a hacker does is it gets a whole bunch of bots to start making requests on a particular website, and it might be thousands and hundreds of thousands of these bots requesting a website at one time, thus overwhelming the system and denying service to legitimate people just trying to use the service. Then the last one I wanted to show you, man in the middle. So man in the middle is basically where a hacker might intercept a communication between two devices or users. A good example of that is, unsecured Wi-Fi. And part of the reason why people tell you, hey, be really wary of using public Wi-Fi and unsecured Wi-Fi, because a hacker in there could use a particular software to intercept communication between you and someone else. And this is also why it's really important in any kind of remote environment to use a VPN, which basically encrypts the traffic between yourself and someone else, so that even if somebody has that access to try and listen in, everything is going to be encrypted. They won't be able to read whatever information is traveling back and forth. Also in home networks, that's also why it's important to have good passwords on your Wi-Fi. So what's new in hacking? Well, first off, let's look at, the old way of phishing, obviously the most common type of hacking that's going on right now. So in the old way, hackers had to, write compelling emails. They had to come up with all the text and make sure it looked really good, and it was going to be good text that was going to fool people, put in the malicious links. Then they had to go and create these web pages and make them look, exactly like authentic web pages, disguise them really, really well, do all that work. Then they had to get a list of email addresses. And then lastly, creating fake email accounts and sending out these phishing campaigns. And man, I don't know about you, but that just to me sounds like a lot of work. There must be a better way. And unfortunately for us folks, there is a better way. Because what's newer in hacking right now, and certainly in phishing, is what we're calling phishing as a service. So on the dark web, and basically the dark web is an area of the internet that's not easily accessible by a standard user, and you can't, like, using a standard, web browsers, Google and whatnot, you can't access these dark web pages. You need a specific browser called a Tor browser, spelled Tor. But anyways, this is where criminals and hackers and whatnot lurk. And this is where you can go and buy now complete phishing kits. So you don't have to write your own emails. You can buy a kit pretty reasonably priced, $80, $100. Everything is all built in templates, all worded, ready to go. In a lot of cases, they're even hiring marketing people to help them write these emails to make them look authentic, hiring people that speak English as a first language, because a lot of these phishing emails have been written, by people where English isn't their first language, and you can cite, grammatical errors a lot of times pretty easily in those. It includes all the web pages already pre-built. Hey, even if that's too hard for you, you can do a true phishing as a service where everything is turnkey. You're just going to pay a monthly fee and get access to everything that's already set up, all ready to go for you. The web pages, the emails, you just upload your list. They'll even provide lists for you of email addresses, and they'll even include the evasive technology to hide your identity. Anybody can do this, and that is a very, very scary thing. I've even found on YouTube, I found a YouTube of a teenager just showing exactly where to go and exactly how to execute a phishing campaign online using one of these services. There's a security company called Siren that reported finding over 5,000 unique kits of these available for sale on the dark web last year. So this is a big thing. Just to give you, this is a screenshot of one of the pages on the dark web where somebody is selling phishing kits. This one is an Office 365 targeted campaign. You can see for $80, you can buy the whole kit. It includes the emails, it includes the web pages, and look, you have a whole bunch of different designs to choose from. Office looks a little bit different in different parts of the world. So that's one of the newest things going on. I'm just going to skip right over the poll question. I'm just going to assume it's possibly not working, unfortunately for us, and we're going to just jump right into some of the specific COVID threat examples that we've uncovered. So here's the first one. Looks like it's coming from the World Health Organization. Again, now there's a few things that we can cite in here. The first off, a really generic looking greeting, dear sir. I think anytime you have to be a little bit wary of that. Some of the messaging in here, it's just very short. It's very obscure. I mean, really what they're trying to do is pique your curiosity in some way and get you to click on this link. Called safety measures. One thing I can tell you, okay, and one other thing down here, if you can see a little grammatical error, fever, cough, shortness of breath, you can see a grammatical error in here as well, which I'm sure an organization like the World Health Organization, should they be sending an email basically to everybody in the world, I'm assuming they have people that would check, grammar before they would send something out. However, I will tell you, the WHO does not have everybody in the world's email address, so you shouldn't be expecting an email from the WHO anytime soon. So that also should be a red flag. So this one, clicking on this link basically takes you to a page where it asks you to verify your email. Now, this is one thing everybody has to get your backup completely on. Anytime somebody is asking you to verify any kind of credentials, again, unless it is your own internal network and you know that you're supposed to be doing this based on your IT administrator, or like it's time to change the password on your system or whatnot, or you're logging in for the first time, those kind of things. But it coming up on somebody else's web page asking you to verify your email, you should never have to do that. But a lot of people would be fooled by this. Oh, I just need to verify my email. No problem. It's coming from the WHO, right? It must be legitimate. So just be very, very careful there. Here's another one, somebody mimicking the CDC. So if we look at the return address, you can see it has a CDC hyphen, a hyphen in the middle of the email address there, and also kind of the email address cdchan hyphen with a bunch of numbers. I don't know, might make me a little bit suspicious right there of who the sender is. Even just looking down here at the link, if you were to hover over this link, I guarantee you, I don't have a screenshot of what the link looks like here, but hovering over this link definitely does not point to the CDC. However, typically what they'll do in these messages is they will make the displayed link, which is this, what you see within the body of the email, looks correct, www.cdc.gov, but hidden underneath this is a different email, or sorry, website address that is definitely not the CDC. So hovering over any links in an email is something people have to do. Here's another example of another COVID themed attack. Again, very, very little text, very, very obscure, just trying to pique your curiosity, get you to click on this link. Another strategy by hackers is trying to play the odds. So there's lots of people and businesses around the world, that do business with China or have operations of some sort in China. So, hey, why not send out a China-themed email talking about China operations and how things have been affected, and a fake download of factory contacts. So again, being very wary of should this be directed to you? Anything that's got a download attachment in it, especially a zip file like this one that could be very dangerous to your system. Always have to be very, very wary of those things. Another one mimicking the Massachusetts Institute of Technology Health. Again, very kindly check the latest information. A lot of people, oh, great, information from MIT, I better click on this. But I guarantee you this is not taking you to where you think it should be taking you. I don't know if any of you have seen this one in the news, but so Johns Hopkins University had created this. They have a lot of information, and it is a good resource for the coronavirus. And this one here is the standard map that you can access on their site. And you can see this is the correct web address. It is on the jhu.edu website. But a phishing campaign got started, and hackers basically cloned, or mostly cloned, the Johns Hopkins tracking map. So you can see it looks very, very similar to the real one. But if you look at the web address where you had to go to download it, and downloading it should also be a red flag. Please don't download anything, a tracker or information of any kind. All information related to the coronavirus is available on these standard, large organization, WHO, Government of Canada websites and whatnot. But this one went to, and this could fool a lot of people too, corona-virus-map.com. Sounds legitimate. But basically, clicking and downloading this map was actually downloading malware onto your system. So along with this, we've also seen a surge in web domain registrations as well, all related to the coronavirus. And this is just a short list of a whole bunch of ones, and these are all malicious websites that have been registered and are being used to try and spread malware. So just because it has corona or coronavirus or COVID in the name doesn't mean it's legitimate. So another scam that we've been seeing is a term called smishing. Smishing just stands for SMS, which is basically text messaging combined with phishing. So SMS, phishing, smishing, kind of a funny word. But first off, some people have reported receiving, and this is probably going to come up, especially now with everybody applying for their emergency response benefits. But this has already been circulated that People are receiving texts that their fund is already ready. Might get people excited. Oh, great, I just have to click on this link here to access my money. Be very wary of that. Don't believe your funds are coming in a text message. This other one here from the Halton Police with a text for an offer from the Red Cross for free surgical masks. Again, being really wary of anything if it sounds too good to be true. I'm surprised we haven't seen one that's that's offering free toilet paper. I think that might fool a lot of people right now, get them to click on it. So here's some buzzwords I think that everybody should be aware of. You know, anything, any kind of emails offering updates and stats on victims and case studies, etc. Test kits that are available, vaccines, any emails or texts for free masks, other free aids and things like that. Anything financial, so the emergency response benefit, financial aid, employment insurance payments, you got to be really, really careful as to where these are coming from. Any organizations looking for donations, we've heard of organizations duping legitimate organizations or even just forming fake organizations, talking about COVID benefits, both for victims as well as first responders. Again, just doing your homework, being very, very judicious in making sure that you are, if you are making donations, that is going to the right organization. And working remote job opportunities, a lot of people have been laid off, you know, looking for work, looking for any kind of opportunity. You know, it could be very tempting that if you see something, especially if it sounds too good to be true, you know, clicking on links and whatnot, be very wary of that. So along with, you know, just COVID specific themed threats, Office 365, we've seen a surge in activity as well, especially with a lot of people working remotely and more cloud-based. So Office 365 has also been a very, very big target. And as you'll see, that these hackers are getting very, very creative. This is a message actually that I received from somebody. I happen to be just in their contacts list, and they got compromised. So the campaign, the phishing campaign, got sent out to everybody who they had in their contacts list. But this came from a legitimate user, a legitimate organization. I've blacked that all out, obviously. Even the name of the link that they wanted to click on had the link, had the name of the organization, so kind of looked like it could be legitimate. But sending a proposal for review on OneNote, OneNote just sounds like an unusual place to share files and information with someone. So, but first off, being really wary of anybody sending you a link to an Office 365 document that's not within your own Office 365 account. So this is how it tricks systems like this came from a legitimate user. Even as far as like a spam score, there's only one link in here. A limited amount of text, so it would have gotten through a lot of spam systems. And even this link isn't going to a malicious page per se. It sort of is, but the initial page that it takes you to is a legitimate Office 365 page. So clicking on this link then takes you to an Office 365 OneNote page. Again, a legitimate page, but it has this link in here to download the attachment, and this is where the kicker comes in. So if you hover your mouse over this link, it is definitely not staying within Office 365. Now it is going to the page that's going to steal your information and try and download the malware onto your system and infect you or steal your credentials. So this one, if you did click on this web address down here is a web address of a fake Office 365 login page asking you to re-enter your ID and password for Office 365. Hence, that's how they get you infected and get access to your credentials and now send it out to everybody within your contacts list. Here's another one, similar, but just a little bit different. Instead of a file, it's saying that you have a new audio note. Again, I'd be a little bit suspicious of somebody sending an audio note. Just doesn't sound like a typical thing that you will receive. Even the hacker put in this message down here. It's been scanned by McAfee, just to try and make it look a little bit more authentic. Once you click on this link in here, and this one brings you to this page. Again, now this is something that the hacker had made on a SharePoint page, and wants you to click here to listen to the message. And once you click on that link, also, interestingly enough, on a backend Microsoft Azure page that was created, but it looks very authentic. The Microsoft logo asking you to enter your email ID and password. But here's the kicker: looking at the full address, network watch z13.web. Blah blah blah. Definitely is not a legitimate address for a login page for Microsoft. So what does a real Microsoft page login look like? There's only 4 real domains that should have access to Microsoft logins. First one is Microsoft.com, second one live.com, Microsoftonline.com, and Outlook.com. I know it'd be, really hard to be, checking every single time that you're logging in, but doing some due diligence and looking at the address of where you're at or where you're going, everybody has to be vigilant about that. Just another look of another fake Microsoft login credentials page. Looks very authentic. This one looks like an Outlook login. So why are we having so many cybersecurity issues? Well, we sort of talked about it already. Cyber criminals are getting more organized and sophisticated. Unfortunately, businesses are not keeping lockstep with that additional organization and sophistication. So cyber criminals are preying on a lack of organization by businesses. I mean, every business has tools in place. Firewalls, antivirus, spam, monitors, like the biggest companies around the world, even that spend millions of dollars, have great tools. However, they're still being hacked. Part of the problem is there's a lack of proactive management process for managing the tools as well as software on the network. Also, there's a lack of an alignment process for aligning systems, aligning IT and the security controls against a set of known standards. So I've underlined the word process there because that's the biggest thing. What's really prevalent as far as IT goes in our industry is more of a reactive approach. Everybody's been conditioned that IT is basically you set it up, you put tools in place, and you wait for things to break and you go in and fix them. And I'll tell you what, if that's the only process that you have, there's going to be blind spots. If you're not looking at logs and not aligning to standards and checking against standards and checking your security, you're going to have what I call blind spots. And blind spots is where you have vulnerabilities and risks within your organization. Sadly, somewhere around 80 to 90% of the IT management, I'll call it, in place is of a very reactive nature. Very, very few companies have this true process in place that really prevents these things. But this is the level of sophistication that businesses and people have to go to keep in step with these cyber criminals that are definitely increasing their knowledge and their own internal process. Here's a compelling fact: 60% of breaches involve vulnerabilities for which a patch was available and not applied. Again, relating back to process, if you had a process for checking and making sure that everything was patched and up to date, not just hoping that it is, but having the process and the checklist for making sure these things are happening. Another point here, some security measures were actually designed and put in place to protect people when they're inside an office environment, like the firewall that they have in the office is meant to protect people in the office, but not as much when people are out. Remote people, remote salespeople and whatnot, sometimes the security wasn't designed to protect them as much. And now with businesses all sending their people, businesses that used to have everybody in an office and now everybody's working from home, we're seeing vulnerabilities here where security measures were never really put in place. People didn't think about this possibility. What if we ever had to have people work remotely? Do we have systems and security in place to be able to manage that? And lastly, end users lacking both the initial and ongoing training to stay safe. It's great to have training just like we're doing today and exposing people to what's going on, but it needs to be ongoing because this thing is a moving target. And these cyber criminals are changing their ways and improving their methods day by day. So we need to stay in step with them to make sure that we're protected. So let's talk about how to keep yourself safe. So these are just a quick snapshot of the biggest highlights that everybody should be looking within an email. First off, looking at who the email is coming from. This one here, if you look close, supposedly coming from Amazon, but if you look real close at the email address, it's missing the A in Amazon Canada. So that's definitely a red flag right there. Looking at who it's addressed to, is it a very generic, non-personalized greeting, dear client, dear friend, or even blank, dear comma? That's something that should raise a red flag. And then any links within an email, definitely hovering over the link, see if it matches the link that's displayed within the email, or if it's going to somewhere else that looks obscure or just an unusual looking domain. Definitely do not click on those. But let's look specifically at all the ways, certainly with email safety, as we mentioned, checking the sender email address. Look beyond the display name. Hackers are really good at putting in great display names, especially spoofing, and they're able to spoof the names of people that potentially are in your contacts list, or because they've compromised someone that you happen to be in their contacts list, they're going to display that person's name because they're going to assume that you know who they are. Yet their email address may not match that sender's name as well. So look beyond just the display name, look at the email address. Does it look unusual? Check the to address. Is it sent to you? Is it blank? Is it a long list of names that you don't recognize? All those things should be red flags. Checking the subject line. Does it look suspicious? Is it unusual grammar? Is it blank? Any of those things should raise red flags. Checking the body text, looking for bad grammar, a very generic greeting, unusual signature, an unusual company name, especially if they have like a company logo, like they were using Amazon, but then, they don't have a proper Amazon name in the signature. Any of those things should be red flags. Don't click on links within emails, especially if it's anything related to banking or financial. You can always go to whatever the financial institution, if it's your bank. Never click on a link to your bank from within an email. Just close that email, open up a web browser, and then just go directly to your bank's web address to do any kind of financial transactions. If it's government or tax related, definitely clicking on any of those kind of links. Police or law enforcement, I guarantee you that if somebody's sending a warrant for your arrest, it's probably not going to come in email. If you must click on a link, making sure it's coming from a trusted source, hover over the link if you have to, and check the actual address. Again, it'll appear in the lower left-hand corner of your screen once you hover over it. And then be suspicious of every attachment. Is it for sure coming from a trusted source? And just to alert everybody, 85% of the most dangerous attachments come from one of these following types. So anytime you get an attachment of these types, you have to be wary. Anything from Microsoft Word, Excel, Adobe Acrobat, and then the compressed file formats, .zip or .7z. Any of these that come in, you really have to make sure before you click on them, because they can have malicious code contained within them that as soon as you open these, it can execute that code. And lastly, just using common sense, anything else that looks suspicious, even if it's not listed on here, always better be safe than sorry. Call the person or just delete the email. I'm sure if it's that important, somebody will resend it to you. Other ways just beyond email that you can protect yourself. First off, protecting your identity. Using unique passwords for different sites. I know this is a tough one. We have access to so many different, pieces of software and websites and things like that. Hard to keep track of passwords. There are password tools that you can use to help you track that and keep access to that in a safe and secure way. But what hackers do once they steal the credentials of one person, let's say they steal your email password, your ID and password, for instance, they're going to use bots to go out and start checking that ID and password against a whole other bunch of things, banking sites, other financial sites, anywhere else that they can gain access to and make your life miserable. Your password should be complex and not easy to guess. You know, can't use password or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Definitely a no-no. Using antivirus and anti-spyware or malware software, you know, also known as endpoint protection, and ensuring it's up to date. Look, if it's a business machine, most likely somebody else is managing this for you, but if it's your home machine, you got to make sure that you are running some kind of antivirus, make sure it is protected and up to date, and you have automatic updates turned on there. Keeping your operating system up to date. So again, if somebody's managing this for you within your business, that's great. If not, if it's a home machine or one that you have to manage yourself, I think you should have automatic updates turned on so that you get these security patches and updates automatically. Backing up your local files, again, within a business environment, typically there is backups of your company data. However, if it's on a personal machine or a machine that's not managed by your business, you know, keeping an extra copy of files, like you can use a simple thing like an external USB drive. After you do back up your files, unplug that though. Cloud storage, you know, Dropbox and things like that, in a pinch, you know, can be used for these kind of things. Just in case, if you were a victim of ransomware, your files got encrypted or something on your machine, that you have a second copy of them somewhere. Staying away from suspicious websites. So, you know, making sure that you ensure it's a secure page. If you're, you know, any kind of a page, banking, financial, or whatnot, where you're entering in sensitive data, you can tell this by looking at the web address. Should have an HTTPS or a picture of a lock in the web address to let you know that it's secure. Most of those you can click on the HTTPS or the lock and it'll give you more information on the security certificate, like who it's registered to, etc. And then lastly, protecting your wireless access. So making sure you have complex passwords, private and guest access that you can have. So if it's your business, obviously somebody's looking after that for you, but in your home, and a lot of people are working out of their homes right now, like I use Bell at home, and even my Bell router has the capability to set up both private and guest access. So you allow guest access for, you know, your kids' friends or visitors or whatnot that you want to allow internet access in your house, and then you keep the private ones separate, especially for things like, you know, connecting to your business and whatnot. So everything is separate. You use a different, more complex password for that. Some COVID-specific safety measures. A lot of this is common sense, I think. You know, only using trusted sources for information. You know, the government of Canada, Canada.ca, the WHO, Ontario government. There's plenty of information there. Certainly the big news and media agencies also would be good places for information, but just make sure you look closely at things and make sure you are on the right site. Be very suspicious of any COVID-themed email messages at all. I know there's a lot of them going around now. Everybody is sending out their COVID messages and trying to help people and whatnot, but be very wary of clicking on any links or downloading any kind of attachments to these. So I wanted to just take just a few minutes to talk about how to keep your business safe. So again, if you're a business owner or the person responsible for IT within your business, or the manager of that, or the main point of contact, you know, this section is for you. So we're just going to do a couple quick slides and then we're going to get right to the Q&A. So for keeping your business safe, at a bare minimum, I'm sure everybody has this in place right now, a firewall, antivirus, or some sort of endpoint security and backups. But I think the biggest one that everybody needs to be cyber safe is a security process. So, and that means having both the process as well as a dedicated resource responsible for proactive system and security checks. So including aligning your systems and your IT to standards that exist that are going to keep you safe. Again, I think there's a lot of this kind of reactive IT management where we're just trying to go in and fix problems, and there's not enough effort that's put into the proactive end of things, and and helping make sure that you have these systems in place. So a second thing that you can do is adapting a security framework. A couple of the popular ones, the ISO or the NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology. This graphic here is the NIST framework. It basically follows 5 sets of processes. One, identifying all of your assets and documenting all of your assets. 2, protecting all of those assets, putting the tools and the process in place. A means to detect activities going on, then responding, putting the action that you defined in place, and then recover, getting your systems back up, and then making improvements to ensure that things don't happen again. So that's the NIST process. Anybody wants to talk about that offline, you know, a lot of our security process is based on this NIST model as well. So I can certainly help anybody that wants some help with that offline. The next section here, security tools. So we've already talked about the basic ones, firewall, antivirus. Then looking at next-gen endpoint protection. So some of the next-gen include, you know, antivirus coupled with malware, spyware. Instead of the old way of downloading antivirus definitions to an individual machine, they get the definitions web-based, so it's all real-time to the most recent threats versus waiting to update software. And they also use artificial intelligence to, you know, understand and see unusual activities going on within a machine, like files being encrypted and whatnot. It'll cut off those and stop those processes and stop that from spreading to other machines. Phishing protection software. So there's been a lot of advancements here and a lot of new software that's popping up on the marketplace. A couple of the popular ways. One is email link protection. So the software basically protects users, you know, once they click on a link within an email, and that's how most people get in trouble. This software will inspect the page of links before they're accessed against a blacklist or a known list of sites. The second one here is the one that we're employing. It's DNS layer protection. Basically, in a nutshell, what it does is it inspects any web page before a user accesses it. So it doesn't matter if it's a link within an email or if somebody just opens up a browser and types in a web address or clicks on a link on a web page. Doesn't matter. It's going to first inspect that page in the background for you, looking for any kind of malicious code, and also check it against a blacklist. The product we use is called Cisco Umbrella. Again, anybody wants information about this after the fact, they can contact me. Two-factor or multi-factor authentication. This should be mandatory for any web applications, or certainly Office 365 as well, because it's such a big threat. Basically, two-factor authentication just requires you to enter in one more additional code beyond just an ID and a password. So for me, logging into Office 365, I have to put my email and my password in. But then once I do that, I get a code sent to my mobile device. And a hacker is not going to have the specific program and the means to get this code. So that's just a second factor of authentication I have to go through. Sometimes it's a bit of a pain and one extra hoop to jump through, but this just stops anybody, hackers that have ID and passwords, from being able to access things, because without that additional code, again, they won't be able to utilize that ID and password. VPN for remote access, especially with, you know, using remote desktop or TeamViewer. So a lot of people have been working from home now and are using things like remote desktop and TeamViewer and whatnot to access their the other people's systems or their own system that's back in the office. When you add a VPN for security on top of that, it adds that encryption layer. So Thus, again, if you only allow remote desktop access once you have a VPN established, again, a hacker would have to know how to log into your VPN. And again, with a VPN, having multi-factor authentication to be able to get the VPN in the first place. So you're just beyond an ID and a password there. And then the last thing, advanced security operations, event monitoring. So this is basically software that monitors all event activity. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of events that are happening every second within systems and within networks. So the human eye can only parse and go through so much. You need specific software to go through and really identify what is malicious behavior and what is not. And that's what this software does. Second area here, security training and testing. It's a pretty popular product that we use and many of our clients are using and adapting right now. It's called KnowBe4. It's basically both training as well as phishing simulation and testing for your people. So it's got these phishing campaigns that look very realistic that you can send out to all of your users. And you see who gets tricked by these and who ends up clicking on links. I mean, the users don't know it's coming. So if they do click on these links, it'll alert you and let you know, and you can arrange and do specific training for that end user. You can as well do regular ongoing training programs as well, and they update the training software based on recent and most common threats. So it's a great way to keep all of your people up to date on the latest security awareness training as well. The next one here, dark web monitoring, again, another service that we use and our clients use. We use a company called Agent ID. Basically what this does is it's constantly scouring the dark web, looking for any area where your credentials might be showing up on the dark web. Usually people are using their email address in or name for IDs in ID and password combinations. So it's looking to see if your email address or name pops up anywhere on the dark web, sends you a notification so that you can then go in and change that password. Hopefully it's not too late at that point, but at least notifying you that something's been compromised. Now you can look into that system and see if there's any further compromise or something has spread somewhere else. And then lastly, making sure you have really good business continuity and a disaster recovery solution. This is another area that has seen great improvements over the last several years. And there's a big disparity between old technology and the latest technology here when it comes to recovering and being able to recover from any kind of disasters, including security disasters where you get held for ransomware or get a crypto locker on your system. You know, these recovery times can range from minutes to hours to days. I think with a typical backup scenario, you're probably looking at several days to recover from any kind of disaster recovery solution, from getting new hardware in and then replacing and downloading and recovering all the data. This is a question I ask a lot of business owners and people responsible for IT that everybody should be able to answer. Do you know if you had a disaster scenario, fire, flood, or somebody took a fire hose to your server, what the timeline and process would be to get your business back up and running? Most people I ask that question to don't know the answer. They just assume, oh, it'd probably be, you know, maybe the same day, maybe a day or two, I don't know. You have to ask yourself, can your business absorb that kind of a hit to your business? So again, just another thing you want to make sure you have the right system in place. So basically, that's everything that I wanted to cover with you all today. And I just wanted to say with anybody, if you need any kind of help with IT security or IT management based on either what's going on now with this COVID situation or just in general, you're having challenges or whatnot, or have a question, love to help you out. Here's my email address, mike@pacetechnical.com. You can send me an email. Any questions, want to talk offline, want to arrange an online meeting to have a conversation, absolutely we can do that. So I want to open it up now for Q&A, and I'll ask Noman to jump back on the line with us. Are you there, Noman?
Hi, Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Okay. Um,
So we did receive a bunch of questions. Do you want me to read them out to you?
yeah, sure.
All right. So one came from our friend Arpit. Is Zoom a secure platform for um, basically conducting a secure meeting for privacy reasons? Um, so Arpit, any tool can be both secure and secure. It depends on what options you select. Um, I know Zoom has been in the news lately for the Zoom bombing and some other stuff that's been going around. But if you select the right options within the Zoom meeting, basically, set up a password for the meeting. Don't end up the password within the meeting itself. Don't send your normal meeting ID in there. Send a user generated, a random generated meeting ID. So all those options are available in Zoom. And if you need help, we can obviously talk offline, and I can give you some more tips on that.
Yeah, and if I can jump in here as well, because probably a lot of people have heard about Zoom in the news as well. So specifically within when you're setting up a Zoom meeting, you can do it in a very simplified way, or you can do it in a way where you need people to authenticate. So if I wanted to start a Zoom meeting right now, I can do it really easily and make it open with no security measures in place and just send a link around to anybody. Um, and anybody then can access that link and join and be a part of that meeting. So in that respect, definitely wouldn't be secure. But as Noman said, there are controls that you can put in place with Zoom, but I'm not so sure Zoom would be the right choice for any kind of a legal or disciplinary hearing that you might want to have going on. And I think there are potentially some products specifically in your industry that are probably made more so for that specific application.
All right, good. So I think the second question that came in is how do you lock in the web address? So I think they're talking about, the tip that you gave about to check the lock in the web
Right.
address bar. So Mike, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so you're not necessarily locking, and I'm not sure if that's a typo or not, locking in the web address, but how do you, when you go to a website that is secure, a lock should appear, or the letters HTTPS should appear in the address line of whatever address that you're at. You can't make yourself a website secure just by trying to do something with that website. Um, it's the maker and the hoster responsible for that website that makes it secure or not secure. So I'm hoping that answers your question. Again, if it doesn't, send me an email to Mike at Pace Technical. We can maybe uh, answer that offline.
All right, good. So the next question that came in, actually there are two that says, what's the best antivirus software for personal use, and what's the antivirus software that you guys recommend?
Yeah. Do you want to take
Um,
that one, Noman?
yeah, so what we use at Pace is a product called WebRoot. We like that product because it's a very light client. It has all the good benefits that Mike already showed you in the presentation. Um, and WebRoot do have an home version as well that you can go onto their website and get it. I think it costs like $20 for 29 bucks for the whole year. Um, and it's one of the next gen software that Mike was talking about, which is connected to the cloud, and it has an algorithm and AI built into it that looks for not only for the known virus or virus files, but it also keep a track of the activity that's going around in your system. So if someone is corrupting your files or something like that, it will try to stop new type of viruses or new type of ransomware that's coming out.
Right. Um, Look, there's a lot of different platforms available in antivirus now, and that is an industry changing drastically as well too. So we're constantly looking and reviewing and analyzing, software as it comes onto the marketplace, as it's tested out and whatnot. Okay, the next question, should you only be concerned with phishing if you have more than 50 employees in your company? No, actually, I think the SMB marketplace, all depending on how you define it, I mean, could be as small as, companies with 5 and 10 individuals. But I think everybody has to be concerned about phishing. Certainly, if you have more than 50 employees, yeah, obviously you're a bigger company, probably with a lot more to lose, maybe a bigger reputation on the line, but it doesn't mean that a 10-person company has an equal amount to lose. There is a statistic out there that I think it's about 60% of businesses that suffer some type of hacking event or exposure end up closing within 6 months of that event. So these things can be very costly, especially to small businesses. It could kill reputations with your with people who you do business with and whatnot. So unfortunately, hackers are not only targeting large companies, they're targeting everybody down to the individual user, anywhere where they can make a buck. It's just as easy for them to go out, and in the SMB marketplace, there's way, way more businesses and way more people than there is in the enterprise marketplace. So, Noman, do you want to take the next one here? What are examples of a good password, both sequence and in length?
There's for a good password, the basic thing is going to be what we normally recommend is you put a 6 to 8 character password with with a combination of alphanumeric characters as well as a special character in there. You also, the only tip I would like to give it is you have to remember, if you make it too secure, your users will end up writing it down somewhere, right? So that's not going to be any help for anyone. So it has to be in the middle, right? You cannot just go make it like a 12 character or 20 character password. A 8 character password is good, but nowadays a password itself is, even if you make it at 20 characters, is not that good, because with the phishing emails and all those other things going on, sometimes you normally give out that password. So we should start looking at, instead of actually just looking at a complex password thing, we should start looking at the 2-factor authentication or the multi-factor authentication that Mike have shown in the presentation.
Right. Yeah, I think, a little bit of common sense. We got to balance a little bit of security with common sense, a minimum of 8 characters, combinations of capital letters, lowercase, numbers, symbols. Yeah, and something that hopefully is going to be a little easier to remember. So the next question, is iCloud secure? So not sure specifically how we answer that question. I mean, I think there's security in place, like iCloud does provide encryption to data when it's in transit. So in that place it is, and when it is in iCloud, it is in an encrypted format. But if somebody gets access to your ID and password and you don't have any other security measures in place, obviously not so secure anymore. But I'm sure iCloud has lots of security measures and probably spends millions of dollars on the security infrastructure related to iCloud. Would you agree, Noman?
Yeah, I agree. And as we said before, you know, is Office 365 secure? Is is Google Drive secure, right? It all comes down to what options you select in when you're setting up the cloud itself, right? There is stuff available, and if you need additional measure, there's other tools available that you can utilize for this.
Okay. Next question, if we already have an antivirus software or tool, can it protect our business and its people from all possible cyber threats out there? I think the answer to this is no, unfortunately. Even with all security measures in place, look, businesses around the world spending millions and millions of dollars on security, including antivirus, firewalls, phishing software, etc. Still, we're seeing in the news reports of people being compromised, being breached, and whatnot. So nothing is 100%. Look, these cyber criminals are, again, getting very, very organized, getting smarter, pooling resources, getting more targeted, and seemingly trying to stay one step ahead of us. So we have to try and stay one step ahead of them. So just having antivirus software makes no guarantee that you're going to be safe from cyber threats. You have to do kind of a 360-degree approach, both with tools such as virus, firewalls, other security tools. But again, as I mentioned during the webinar, having that process in place and a proactive process for making sure that things are as they should be, that you're aligning to standards, best practices, security standards, etc. Sound about right, Noman?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Okay. How do you further secure your Canadian bank account with 2FA, considering they don't offer 2FA? What about a YubiKey or Google Authenticator? I'm not sure I can speak to this one. I'm not sure about you, Noman.
No, the major banks, at least the one that we've seen, they all offer some sort of two-factor authentication now. Some small banks might not have that feature set right now, but unfortunately, you cannot just use YubiKey or Microsoft Authenticator on its own. The bank or the source has to have that enabled for you to use the second portion. Um, Saying that there are applications or other tools that are available, like something called a Cisco Duo that's available that allows you to secure an environment that doesn't actually support 2FA, but then you're going to be limited to where you can log in from that environment. This is a longer discussion. We can have that offline. If you want to send us an email to Mike, and we can have a chat about it afterwards.
Okay. Um, and how many of the protections, this is from Jeff, how many of the protections you described do you think will be incorporated into Microsoft Security Essentials? I think Microsoft definitely has a roadmap for continuing to offer some of these security tools. I don't know firsthand what the plans are to include these and incorporate these into Microsoft Security Essentials. Noman, I'm not even sure if you would know the answer to this one.
No, Microsoft is, the Microsoft licensing and their packages are always constantly changing. They're adding new stuff all the time. Their security essentials do have some basic stuff depending on which package you go for, like ATP, which do some of the link protection and other things. But definitely there are other tools available that do the job either better than
Yeah,
what the existing tools are that Microsoft provide. But again, that all depends on what you're looking to get, right?
yeah. Okay. The next one comes from Glenn. Actually, it's a few questions. So I'll read these out, and Noman, I'll let you, a lot of them are VPN related. I'll let you address these. So First one, should all users that are within the organization using Teams or Zoom be connected to the organizational VPN? And does that connection protect the meeting communications? Like, is traffic then sent through the VPN?
Uh,
Second question, I'll just read out all the questions and you can answer in whatever order. Does using a VPN app on a mobile device secure traffic to and from the device? Specifically, if you're using a Fortinet VPN app on an Android. Should all users connecting to the company VPN be required to sign into the VPN? And what personal password protection apps would you recommend?
all right. So to start with, having a VPN connection, coming back into your organization, or sorry, having a Teams or Zoom meeting done using a VPN would not make that communication that much secure because you're using the cloud service, right? It's going to the cloud anyway. Majority of these tools, including Teams, it's all encrypted traffic. And it doesn't go one to one like it when all of us are talking right now. It's actually going to the Zoom server instead of just connecting us directly to each other, right? Um, so using a VPN within the Teams or Zoom, that won't make much of a difference in terms of security part. The second question about does using a VPN app on a mobile device secure traffic to and from the device? Majority of the time, the VPN is set up to only encrypt the traffic or only send the traffic through the VPN tunnel that's directed towards your internal corporate resources like your servers and everything. You can set up the VPN to direct everything coming from a particular device or all your devices to go through the office network first before they go to the internet. But that all depends on your VPN app. The second scenario that I just described, majority of the companies that we see don't use that because that opens up a lot other issue about bandwidth and the requirement. There's a lot more to it than just redirecting all the traffic. Um, so using a VPN on your mobile device doesn't necessarily means all traffic from your if you're using a banking app on your mobile device, that traffic is not going through the VPN, so it's not going to be any secure than just a normal regular while you're accessing it regularly. And the third question, should all user connecting to the company VPN be required to sign into VPN? Signing into VPN or signing into a resource, that's a must, right? The question that needs to be answered right now is, should they be required to sign in with two-factor authentication or a multi-factor authentication? Or, having a password to sign into VPN, that's a must thing. We are going now to the next step where you actually require more than one password. You need to require the password as well as the app or the second authentication portion as well. And the last question, it says, what personal password protection app would you recommend? For personal password protection, there's quite a few apps out there. Now it actually comes down to your personal preference. I like LastPass. That seems to be working good for me. That has a lot of good features. What I don't like and I won't recommend to anyone is actually saving passwords in the web browser, right? You should always have an app that you save the password in. The web browsers are okay to save some generic password for generic websites, but not for anything that has any sort of personal information in there. That includes your date of birth, that includes anything with your name, address, anything like that. I hope that answers all the questions for you, Glenn. But if you have anything else, do contact Mike or myself and we can certainly talk to you afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. And then the next question here from Ryan, is two-factor authentication really that secure with all of the existing Android and iOS threats?
Two-factor authentication is there a way to break that? Yeah, there are ways to break that as well. But here's the thing, right? What we are trying to do is trying to get the attacker to move away from us. There's lots of people that has less secure password and less, you know, have less security. What we are trying to do is make them say, okay, oh, you know what, these guys have two-factor authentication. It's going to take us ages, and it requires a really, um, high level of skill set to actually go and break a two-factor authentication. It's not really easy to do. Not, 99% of the hackers, as you can see in in the presentation as well, right? They're going with these services. They're looking for easy target. With millions and billions of people out there, there are tons of easy targets available. Why they spend time on anyone that has a two-factor
Right.
authentication?
Good point.
All right.
Okay. So the next question here from Frank. What would you recommend instead of Zoom? I'd like to have as many people visible on the screen like Zoom. So, hey, I can answer this one. um, the Cisco WebEx product, works very similar to Zoom. And you can have a lot of people. I can't remember what the maximum amount of people that you can have up on the screen is, but similar to Zoom. And actually, isn't it for the next few months or so? I believe it's free to use as well. So Cisco WebEx probably be what we would recommend.
Cisco WebEx is definitely a good resource as well. But if you're looking for internal communication, which is within your organization, we would actually recommend Microsoft Teams, although it doesn't allow you to have more than 4 people on the screen at the same time. But it's still, um, within the teams, you have a lot more AD integration, a lot more policies that you can set up to have a lot more secure and easy time setting it up, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Okay. Um, the next one is from Lee. Hi, Lee. This is with DNS layer protection. Is there a delay in delivery of web pages or email that would be perceptible to the end user?
So with the DNS filtering or DNS layer protection, um, there are the big players, which is like the Cisco umbrella, and then there's small players that are providing the same sort of service. Um, with with the larger players, what we have seen is that there's literally not even a noticeable delay in delivering of web pages, because all it's doing is it's actually looking at all the DNS requests against the database. And with a product like Cisco Umbrella, you don't normally see any sort of delay. Um, with the DNS layer protection or DNS filtering, that doesn't really affect emails um, itself. But if there's a link within the email that you click on that goes to a website, then it goes through the check for the DNS layer protection. It doesn't actually check any emails coming in. For you to check all the links that's coming in and into an email, that's the other product that Mike showed in the presentation, which is like a Microsoft ATP or Advanced Threat Protection or a Barracuda or a Wade that looks at all the HTML links in an email and filter them through a known list of websites that are restricted.
Okay, great.
Right.
And I think we've already answered Glenn's question. And Jeff just asked if we're comfortable if you distribute this presentation to your staff. Of course, no problem, Jeff. We're making it available to whoever may want it. So we have recorded this. Hopefully the recording comes out okay. We will make it available. Feel free to share with your staff, colleagues, and whatnot. Again, just trying to help whoever might need help in this area. And hopefully this might help some people out, stay a little bit safer right now.
All right. We got another question from Glenn.
Yeah. Do you need a Cisco firewall to use the Cisco products? I don't think you do.
Now, you don't need a Cisco firewall to use any of these products.
Yeah,
These are all cloud-based tools that are available. You do need a PhD to figure out which products, because when you are looking at the products, they have different packages that you can get.
right.
So someone, maybe your IT company right now, or if you don't have one, you can obviously contact us and we can help you guide through that maze of the
Yeah,
available options.
yeah, of course. Glenn, any other help you might need, just get in touch after the fact. Okay, so I think we've answered all the questions. Hope everybody enjoyed the webinar. And again, need any kind of help, shoot us an email, and hopefully everybody stay safe. And we're hoping for the best that this thing ends sometime soon. Okay, take care. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you.